Well, this morning I'm watching on the news as the citizens and shopkeepers in the Democratic Republic of the United States of America board up their windows and doors, board up their main streets, and it's not because of an approaching hurricane, at least not a literal hurricane. I should clarify, I wasn't watching CNN or Fox or NBC. I wasn't watching an American network TV to see this. I was watching an international news channel, which means that's what the entire world is watching this morning, is the citizens and shopkeepers, without argument, historically the most notable democracy on earth, preparing for a national election by boarding up their streets. You know, for 200 years, more or less, the rest of us in democracies around the world, peer democracies and fledgling democracies, hope to be democracies, we've all looked to the United States of America to fully understand applications of functional democracy. What I'm looking at today in the international news media looks like something I'd see in a country attempting to birth democracy out of chaotic dictatorship or something. I don't know how to really even express how sad that makes me. I'm sure that must be true for anybody that's, you know, politically aware out there. It's not like this is any kind of normal. And if this is what the electoral process is deteriorated into in the United States, what warning does that hold for all of the rest of us? We're not talking about a flash in the pan republic here. I think at one time, most people were conscious of the fragility of democracy and both the privilege and requirement of their participation if they wanted it to be able to continue. But like all things in life, humanity really does have a problem with becoming complacent over things that don't require constant attention. And that's one sure way to get things to require constant attention, is to ignore them for a while. Democracy is about renewal, though. Like, I hope most people are clear on that. Our human overpowering will to make all things stay the same, that conflicts with our much better thought out political will for democracy. Because with democracy, we we don't just admit to change, we invite it and we embrace it. However, one has to think that if you need to board up all of Main Street in order to hold an election, then maybe we're kind of missing it on the embrace it part, right? Let's get back to remembering that obviously, if it's a democracy, not everybody is getting their way on everything. I hope, this is my hope, for the people of the United States and for the rest of us out here in the world. And honestly, people, if you don't think that what happens in the United States is going to affect you, then you must have just woke up this morning. There's a reason why the whole world is focused on the US federal election right now. It's because it's hard to imagine living in a place in the world where what happens in the United States of America does not affect you. So what's the lesson for the rest of us? You know, we can't really do much there, right? It's not our place. But, you know, surely if COVID hasn't taught us anything, it's that nothing happens in isolation in this world. For better or worse, we're all in it together. And even the people that think they're going completely their own independent ways, you in fact are not. The interesting thing, disturbing thing some people might say, about history is its willingness to run backwards if we let it. And this is on the macro scale, like we're talking right now, in terms of, you know, the planet and the evolution and possible deterioration of democratic process. But it also happens in much smaller scales, right? Like in my more professional work, we talk a great deal about the 10-year amnesia cycle that the petrochemical industry and related industries goes through in terms of maintenance and operational learnings. And one of the things I've noticed in my lifetime, both in that microcosm scale that I spent most of my life in, and now applying it to the macrocosm that we're talking about. So the interesting thing about, you know, whether you're talking about the 10-year cycle of amnesia in the operations and maintenance industry, or this bigger seeming to be all of the democratic world losing its way, in part because the democracy we all look to for general guidance is losing its way. But it's always the difficult things that get forgotten the first. You know, in my business, it was not lost on me that if a learning involved having to more properly schedule and spend to avoid future disasters, the cost of that spend was enough to convince people to forget that they ever learned the lesson. And such it is. All it takes is for things to be relatively calm in the world for a very short period of time, and the more difficult things are easy to forget. Participation in the democratic process and its importance to the continuance of the democratic process That's an easy thing to forget, right? Usually in life, if something's not easy or it puts us out of our way, it's probably important. And that is a bit of an Alice in Wonderland venture for what I actually started talking about. But it is all related. Branching tunnels, we'll call it. What those boards are going on those windows for is an expectation of people wanting to express their will to be counted. But democracy doesn't work as an after-the-fact thing. The results will be what the results will be, and the behavior that leads in a nation to have to board up its streets, you know what? I don't know how anybody else feels. I've seen these exact images over the last 5 decades all over the world. But seeing them unfold in the United States, that's the mountain. I thought we were all working together to help fledgling democracies climb that mountain. It's probably just me, but it disturbs me even more. I guess I'm not even American, and here's the thing. I think I felt a lot of embarrassment this morning that the whole world should be watching this. I felt embarrassed on behalf. That's not leadership. That's an abdication of the right to be considered the leader in the field of functional democracy. It's not the end by any means. I mean, everything has a cycle, right? This is just a really dark cycle, but it would be naive to say that it wasn't obviously coming. We could all see that it was coming for the last decades. There's a lot of history of success. There's a lot of political culture that's worth not letting go of. Everything becomes so much more difficult if the expectations of those that are boarding up their businesses turns out to be correct. I mean, the point is, in any election, especially, two-party democracy such as the US practices, that you're going to have 40-ish or better percent of the population that's not entirely pleased with the result, no matter which way it goes. And being a mature citizen in a democracy means accepting that, not burning down the town over that. In multi-party democracies, such as Canadian parliamentary democracy, and many, if not all, of the democracies in Europe, because of the breadth of the political spectrum, the ruling party is unlikely to have anywhere close to 50% of the voting public support. So from that perspective, the American two-party democracy system, it does bring you closer, perhaps, to the true will of the people if it's applied properly. But it's very, very dependent on people participating. And participation can't start at this stage. Participation has to start at the earlier stage with choices for leadership in each of the two parties. That's participation. Participation takes time out of people's lives. And I understand that. But now what we're seeing is a huge uprising of nobody hears my voice, I think of it as. Nobody hears my voice protesting. But most of that voice has been notably and shockingly silent for far too long. But this is not the correct way to suddenly get involved. We've seen this back when I was young. A lot of it was triggered by the Vietnam War and things of that nature. It wasn't the right way to do things then, and it's not the right way to do things now. And whatever movement is supposedly going to be driving whatever people are afraid of for tomorrow, it's really just people knowing that they're in a time of chaos, and they can get away with this kind of irresponsible activity. I, like the rest of the world, I'm confident I can speak for the rest of the democratic world at least. We're all pulling for you, US of A. We all want to see you get through this. We all want to see you made whole again. And it's going to be needing some work. I think everybody sees that. So that's today. A sad, sad day with the international news media starting out the day showing the entire free world as the US of A locks down hard in preparation for an election. I can't even believe I'm saying that. That's so unexpected. Just saying. Have a nice day.